Birmingham, because that's what we're here about, to talk about Birmingham. And for many of you who know me, know that I'm passionate about this city. As you've heard, I worked and lived here. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to concentrate on two C's and then a third C that I think present opportunities for Birmingham and present real opportunities for all of us here. And I hope some action will come out of it, or you'll feel motivated enough to go and do something about some of the issues I'm going to raise. And my two big C's are around culture and creativity. Both of those areas for this city are big heavyweight, they pull big punches and bring in a lot of economy, but both of those C's are often not recognised in the way they should be, and also they face challenges as we go forward, and I'll pose some of those challenges to you shortly. Now, I'm sure you've all heard this, but Birmingham is one of the cities that's probably been most maligned in the past. You know, people describe us as soulless, uninteresting, no clear-cut identity, but people who talk about us in Birmingham in those sort of terms don't really know Birmingham, don't really know our DNA, and don't know what makes the city tick. How can a city be uninteresting when its cultural offering is next to none? We play not only to local audiences, but to international audiences. We're the most diverse and youthful city in Europe, with under 25-year-olds making well over 40% of our population. We're a city that embraces diversity. Of course, we have issues with diversity, but we're an inclusive city that's embraced its diversity. We're a super diverse city, and we're an enterprising city with well over 1,000 trades. Come to Birmingham and you can have a whole host of visiting attractions. I sound like an ad, don't I? But actually, let's look at the facts. The Hippodrome is simply the busiest and most popular theatre in the UK. The statistics are there. We're a powerhouse for dance, ballet. Look at the Birmingham Ballet Dance Exchange, Sonia Sabri, and the International Dance Festival. We've got a strong vocal tradition. Birmingham's Opera Company, Ex Cathedra, Black Voices, that's just to name a few. And what about music? We've got CBSO, of course, but we've also got a heavy metal scene that's surviving and thriving and building on the tradition of the 70s, when we had bands like Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. I suspect most of you are too young to remember those, but I'm not. Our current offering attracts over 1 million people who come into this city just because they want to come to an arts event here. So we offer not just first-class performances, but we're also big on participation and outreach. Of course, we have to have participation and outreach. Look at the Midlands Arts Centre, the Drum, arts initiatives like Next Generation, or some of the other numerous initiatives that are around culture on the doorstep. We're a global city with modern architecture. And where else can we our modern architecture sit so comfortably with our Victorian heritage? For example, I don't know if many of you have seen the refurbished town hall and how that sits not very far away from our contemporary, beautiful new library. Love it or hate it, it's new, it's there, and it's the largest in Europe. And that's just a stone's throw away from the Symphony Hall, which arguably is one of the finest concert halls in the world. And all of this isn't just about nice buildings and nice things to do, but there's an estimated GVA of 5.2 billion that these organisations and activities around them add to the West Midlands. So that's my first big C, that's culture. The next one I want to turn to is the creative cities. Now, every year we get more and more big major companies major players wanting to come and relocate in Birmingham. IBM, Fujitsu, Codemasters, to name a few. But as important as these companies are, you know what we're doing here now? We're developing our own cultural, creative and digital companies. It's a new industry that's growing, and we've got self-employed people, freelancers, all making up over 55,000 people working in that industry. We want to grow this. It's our new manufacturing base. Yes, we still make widgets and all that, but this is our new manufacturing base that's going to add to the wider manufacturing economy. We create culture and creativity that travels the world, carrying the Made in Birmingham mark. Those of you who know the Jewellery Quarter will know what I'm talking about. Look at what comes out of there. And our creativity benefits from fusion, from the diversity that I've just talked about, and it sucks in all the range of influences. We have new ideas, but we're not frightened of taking other people's ideas and making them work for us. So my third challenge, this is the challenge that I hope that some of you will take away and want to have a debate and discussion about. It's about what's happening at the moment to the two sectors I've mentioned, culture and creativity. With the current spending review going on, we're facing difficult times in those two sectors. And it's precisely at these very difficult times we have to hold our nerve. Because if we dismantle our creative and cultural cities, organisations now, they'll disappear forever. They won't come back easily. And it's at this time that we have to hold our nerve and say, let's not devastate these sectors, because actually they're very important to us. For me, I'll explain to you why they're important, because they don't just provide a buzz for the city. Then it's not just about an icing on the cake, but it's about hard economic realities. It's about social and economic realities. And part of that is about providing the rocket fuel for the economy and also adding value to what goes on in the city. The International Dance Festival, for example, isn't just about bringing 25,000 people to experience dance and have workshops, etc. But actually, if you look at the facts, in 2012, they contributed £1.3 million to the city's economy and generated 4.7 million in terms of good publicity for us. So with reduced funding, there is the rub. How do we create more funding that's going to support these very, very important factors? The government says, think about philanthropy. Yes, let's think about philanthropy. Let's talk about philanthropy. In 2009-10, £350 million was donated by individuals. But where did it go? Over 88% of that went to London, to some 4% of the largest organisations. Now, nobody here is going to tell me that's a fair way of cutting the cake. We need the Arts Council, the government, to be very bold in their thinking and say, well, can we find other ways for those 4% of arts organisations, those organisations based in London, to survive in another way? But surely they will find funding, unlike some of the organisations in the rest of the country, the smaller organisations that we can't afford to lose. So it's not just a Birmingham issue. Let's just talk about the economy and what the arts generate. The arts generate £6 for the country's economy for every £1 we spend. Only 14p per person goes into the arts. So we get a lot of money, we get a lot of feedback from that money. In Birmingham alone, for £1 of city funding, we bring back £29 back into the city economy. So our challenge now, and the discussion here, is where is this new money going to come from? How do we get the city, our big international companies that have bases in the city, to engage with the arts? How do we get them to open up their checkbooks? That's a real challenge for us. They're based here, they see the value of staff engagement, they see the value of being associated with a big, prestigious venue, but not many of them see the value of opening up their checkbooks. Out of the 30% of the FTSE 100 companies, the majority of their money goes into London. This sounds like I'm having a whinge, but it's about how we cut up that cake nationally so that it's a fair cake and a cake that has a little bit for us, not just the crumbs that fall off the table. So my challenge to you is to have that discussion, start that discussion, and maybe through TED here we can come up with some creative ideas. Finally, I'm going to leave you with a thought around philanthropy, because there's a lot of talk about how philanthropy could be the answer here. And for me, culture is a dialogue which crosses many boundaries, and it's about the physical and the mental well-being of our communities. And as I've already mentioned, it's also about the hard economic facts. The word philanthropy comes from a Latin word called, which means literally love of mankind. So if we value culture and creativity, and we value the love of mankind, and we see this as being an important glue for a civic society, a democratic society, then we have to urgently create partnerships, find new ways to unlock new money, because for me, quite frankly, the alternative is too grim to contemplate. I don't know about you, but I certainly don't want to live in a city or a country where culture and creativity isn't in our DNA. Thank you.